It seems on February 25th, 2019, I wrote these thoughts and completely forgot about it. I was going through my files and stumbled on it, so things might come off as outdated, but no. Here's what I wrote. I watched a video where a comedian was talking about performing on stage and he saw a man in the audience wearing one of those red "Make America Great Again" hats. Once he noticed it, he expressed that he became somewhat concerned, but in the end it all worked out. After the show, he spoke to the guy and took a picture with him. The top comment on the video said something along the lines of, "Imagine being so fragile that you get triggered by a hat." This got me thinking. It harkens back to the Deus Ex video I made, The Power of Definitions, and even my Creus Conundrums video on lightsabers. At this point, the red hat, including the act of wearing it, is a symbol. Symbols can quote-unquote trigger people into feeling all kinds of emotions. That's kind of what they almost inherently do. What do you feel or think when you see this? Okay, now what about this? See what I mean? A symbol can instigate feelings of inspiration, anger, motivation, helplessness, happiness, and it can even offend you. Pretty much anything can become a symbol, as long as it has a history attached to it. That's what gives it its meaning. That's why, for example, blackface is unacceptable while whiteface isn't. There's no significant negative history attached to whiteface. It doesn't mean anything, so no one cares. The meaning can be widely adopted or very personal. For example, the letter J can sometimes give me a slight feeling of embarrassment because of something that happened when I was very young involving the letter J. Why did this comedian feel uneasy when he first saw the hat? Same reason. For some, the hat carries a certain reputation due to past associations. That's what happens with complete words. Let's say I were to make up a word, maybe pop squeezels, used to describe someone with acne. If it catches on and people start using it enough and for an extended period of time, you'll also find people using it as a derogatory term, even if it wasn't meant to be such at its inception. But it'll go on, and even some pop squeezels themselves might start using it at times. But its derogatory potential will stick, eventually leading to a demonization of the word. And perhaps the only people who can use the word without social repercussions end up being the pop squeezels themselves. Now with the internet and social media, there are words that just 10 years ago were fine, but the detractors have a much larger reach now. So you could say that the comedian I was talking about was triggered, but then we'll have to talk about what that word really means now. It's apparent that the definition is shifting. I thought it meant the following: the reignition of traumatic memories resulting in an extreme emotional response, basically PTSD. But unless this individual in the comment section is being facetious, they're using it in a way where any emotional response to anything can be considered a triggering. The phrase "Make America Great Again" can certainly make people feel a range of emotions, despite whatever reputation an individual has placed on it. Its strength is also its own weakness. I don't know if it was calculated or if they just fell ass backwards into it, but it is pretty genius. It adheres to the rules of a slogan, where it only has 3 to 4 words and you keep the syllables to a minimum. But beyond that, the vagueness of the phrase itself is what made it so effective. They never specified when it was that the USA was last great. This allowed people to fill this hole with whatever time in history they wished. I saw another video where they asked random people in public about this, and of course, the answers varied greatly. I think one person even went as far back as the founding of the country, which I guess is 1776. But what followed the Declaration of Independence was a war. And that's the issue that produces its weakness. Many of the answers cited times in history that were during or before the Civil Rights era, so you can understand how some people can feel some kind of way about that. The guy that went back to 1776 may have forgotten that slavery in the United States was abolished in 1865. However, I'm sure that if you pointed these things out, they would most likely desire to edit their choices a bit. I would hope that all, or at least most of them, would agree with equal rights policies. In many ways, it can be argued that we live in an era of nostalgia. Many people are trying to recapture the past. The Trump campaign harnessed this desire and brought it into the world of politics. So the question is, which government policies is it that people want to re-implement? This is where it can get tricky, Government policies need to constantly change or be removed in order to adapt to new cultural or technological developments. I remember when Trump said that he loves the poorly educated.
I love the poorly educated.
It made me think of this video I saw that spoke about how Greek philosopher Socrates didn't much care for democracy. His issue was that even someone who's completely ignorant of politics can also vote. Democracy only works as well as a country's education. So if you want a strong democracy, you have to make sure that people are well informed. I was in a position like that once. I was 18, I had zero interest in politics, but my parents were forcing me to go vote. They dragged me along with them despite my repeated protests. I kept telling them that it's a very irresponsible thing to do. I don't remember who I voted for, but if my country's politicians of the day are any indication, then I don't think it mattered. They're clowns, devoid of any kind of vision. So yeah, that's that. My thoughts, expressed. Again, I started talking about people getting triggered and now I'm worried this video is gonna trigger people. Which is probably why I didn't make this video back then and forgot about it. But I don't have time to be scared anymore.